say that, but I think it's more based on quantum physics. It's based on today's belief that the observer and observed are one, that we are only vibrations, that we're made out of atoms, and all ancient religions actually said all the same. So I don't think it's specifically now for Catholics or for Christians or for Muslims or for the Jewish faith or whatever. Not at all. It's just for everyone. And why I say that is once you have counseled many people from different ethnic groups and different beliefs, you can see that actually we all have the same problems in our heart and the same problems in our mind. There's no difference. I've developed my own technique over 25, 30 years of studying all different modalities. And what I do is, contrary to all other counseling sessions where you go to a counselor and you tell them, I have this problem and that problem, I don't need to know any of your problems at the beginning. The first thing that I do is I tell you who you are. So I basically give you a printout of who you are, of all your beliefs and your thoughts and your emotions. And once we have that, we can basically explain your whole life. And for that, I'm using a reading where I sense myself into your emotions and into your beliefs, the same way as a medical intuitive would do, to find out, do you have problems with the liver or problems with that? And that's how I would do it. Everything is an energy. Everything is a vibration. So we're made out of atoms. And when you look at, ask a physics professor, well, what is an atom? Then he will tell you, well, it's a nucleus and an electron in the simplest possible explanation, without going into quantum physics and saying it's consciousness. But in actual fact, it's that, and the way the electron buzzes around the nucleus gives a certain frequency. And these frequencies are all over inside of us. And they're not only in the physical world, that means is your matter of who you are, but they're also in your emotional field. They're also in your thinking field. Everything is just vibration. And that's why we are vibration, and we also have the facility. Every one of us has the facility. It was just never taught to us at school how to actually read these vibrations. You get some people who can talk to animals. You get dog whisperers, and you get horse whisperers, and you get people talking to lions. And it's the same way. And when you ask these people, well, how do you talk to these lions? Well, they say, I get a feeling. And this feeling is the high sensitivity that we have to actually tune into these vibrations. And I always explain to people is it's like having a huge satellite dish here. And you are picking up very, very fine frequencies through the satellite dish right in the center here of your chest. And then it actually sends it up to the neuron network. And in your brain, it actually makes up a word or a picture. And that's how it works. And this is a high sensitivity. You get people that are highly sensitive and basically say, you need to look after your liver because I get a feeling your liver is quite in a bad state. And you get all different kinds of people. And one day science will come closer to that. The same thing is also when they say when cells have receptor sites around it, these receptor sites are nothing else but tiny little satellite dishes, in a simplistic way explained, that pick up your emotions. And these emotions then affect the mitochondria and all the inners of the cells and can change it. So we know that today in biology. The same thing is also with Dr. Rupert Sheldrake, who basically talked about the morphogenetic field. And I always say, well, how does one tree talk to another tree in Africa when a giraffe eats its leaves? And we know about that when the giraffe eats the leaves of one tree and he wants to go to the same kind of tree, then the tree has changed its chemistry. So how do they talk to each other? And we know that they talk what they call in science the field, which is basically the stuff between the nucleus and the electron. That's the field. And we know also today, quite interesting, in biology, that emotions are not stored in the nucleus or in the electron. That means is in the actual matter of what we're made of, but they're actually stored in the field. Well, pain. Well, we have two ways of storage. The first way of storage is what is called the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind has to be seen, and the conscious mind has to be seen exactly like a computer. Your conscious mind is the operating system, and the subconscious mind is nothing else but your hard drive. Now, whenever something happened in your life, it gets stored in the subconscious mind on your hard drive. Now, where does all that information come in from? You've got 5 senses. And I always see it like microphones plugged in or cameras plugged in and your taste organ and sense organ, etc. And from the day that you were in your mother's womb till you die, everything is recorded. Absolutely everything is recorded on that subconscious mind. But when you actually look at the subconscious mind of what actually is stored there, then we know the only thing that is stored there is from the past. So when you have a logical mind and you have a problem in your life, what does the logical mind do? It then goes to the subconscious mind trying to find an answer. But of course, if it goes into the subconscious mind, it only finds the negative, which means everything that's from the past. So we can change that, of course, but in the moment of the now when we make a new decision. But before we can make the new decision, we need to understand why certain things happen. And this is what my system does, is it basically explains everybody with anything why something happened. Because what I found out, especially with older people, is they might have forgiven somebody, but the problem is that they still don't understand why it happened to them. So they might say, well, it happened to me, but why did it not happen to my friend? She had a beautiful life, a beautiful husband, but I had this husband who drank all the time, and I forgave him, sorry. But now, why did it happen to me? And so I found out in all these years that if the why is not answered inside of you, you can never have inner peace. Because we're very much like a pilot in an aeroplane who need to do course directions every day. Because, an aeroplane will get off course because of the wind, because of wind pockets or whatever it is. But we have exactly the same thing. So we need to constantly adjust ourselves. And what I found out and what I do in my workshop is I give people how to see the mirrors of life and how to go through it. So the main thing is that when I tell you what your problems are in life, mostly unconscious inside of ourselves, what beliefs we have, not only in our logical mind, but also in our heart, in our feeling center, then you start understanding why certain things happen. And when you understand that, then you have suddenly an inner peace in your logical mind, and only then can you go into your deeper self, into your emotions, because most people can't get into the emotions because, of course, the logical mind always blocks it to protect yourself, because, of course, you don't want to go into emotions. But what does the logical mind do with emotions? It cannot compute it. It's like I'm sending you files and folders that you don't have the software for it, and the computer will say, do not have the associated program to open up your file and folder. And so it's exactly the same, that when we have an emotion, because the first thing that we do when we have any drama, we have a strong emotion. And this emotion affects us, and we then bring it to the logical mind and say, why is this happening? And the logical mind can only do one thing. It's like a computer. It can only go into its hard drive, which is information of the past. And it cannot give an answer, so it starts rotating. But, I should have done that. But in actual fact, I'm stupid. But you know what? It always happens to me. But, it's actually a bastard. He should have never done that. And why is this happening? And it just rotates and rotates and rotates. And in actual fact, never comes to peace. It just still in years, it will go about it and say, it will cool down, yes, but it will still go on and on and on. And of course, we are then repeating the process with more stage plays that actually show the same thing. They want to teach you the same thing, just in a different surrounding. That's what happens. Generally, it's very quick. In average, I would say it will not take more than 6 sessions, but seldomly 10 sessions. It's only very difficult cases. And when I call difficult cases, that are people that have been on recreational drugs for a long time, or people who are on very strong antidepressants or psychiatric drugs. And with these people, it takes very long. For a simple reason, because it's very much like a computer. Every time you take these drugs, they are there to just numb you down so that you have peace and can breathe again. And the problem with that is it's like dropping the RAM of a computer. It's like you suddenly have only an old 386 computer, that has got hardly any RAM compared to a new machine. So generally, it's very quick. People averagely come about 4, 5, or 6 times after the in-depth analysis, and then they have already the tools how to face everything in life. And when they can't face something, they come back and we sort out 2 or 3 things in 1 hour. And they say to me, look, I'm stuck on that. Can we do this quickly? And they do it and they move on again. So the main thing with this whole in-depth analysis is not just to get an analysis. It's basically to get the tools to face anything in life. And this is very powerful because that's what you need, is that anything that can happen in life, any trauma that comes to you, you can answer your own questions and you can be in touch with your deep inner self. Now, I called it also life simplicity for a simple reason, because after studying so many years, I always said, well, why does it always say the way to the kingdom of heaven is through the mind of a child? And it is so. It is absolutely so. So I try to make it as simple as possible for people to get a quick answer. And the first mirror is always the logical mirror, where you ask yourself, how do I perceive this person treated me? And you give yourself the answers and you start then reflecting, which I'm teaching, where it is actually inside of you. And when you find it, you can then release it. And then after that, you can go into the emotions. So I think the most important thing is we're very much in the logical mind. And as I think somebody said once, we lost ourselves with the logical mind. We need to find ourselves back with the logical mind. And so my system is always like, first, I want to get the logical mind defragmented, because when we are in trauma, we are fragmented because our logical mind is trying, like a librarian, is it maybe this, or is it maybe that, or maybe I was wrong, or maybe I'm too fat, or maybe I have got the wrong color, or maybe I'm this, or maybe, and it's trying desperately to find an answer. And of course, it can't find an answer. And the reason being, once you see the in-depth analysis of mind, then you will understand what it's all about. Nobody gave the answer. There's nobody out there and says, look, when I was 6 years old, my dad just suddenly left us, never to be seen again. Why did that happen to me and not my friend? Now, of course, to tell a guy like that, okay, you create your own reality, he's going to get pissed off. And you say, yeah, really? You know what I mean? I didn't create that my dad leaves me. And so this is much, much deeper, is to understand how did you create that? Is that you need to be asked a question. And the question is, how do you perceive your dad treated you when he left you? And the person might say, well, he was... he did have no feelings for me, he didn't care about me, he didn't love me, he thought maybe I wasn't good enough and that's why he left. And all these answers that you actually give yourself, and this is also something that I learned from a very famous teacher who said, the best counselor is not the one who tells you what the problem is with you. The best counselor is the one who asks the best questions. And with that, that's what I do. I basically ask you the questions and you give yourself the answers. And then I'll just guide you and show you exactly with the reading that we have. Hey, this matches. You see the reading, well, what it actually says, it matches exactly. So you need to start loving yourself. You need to don't think that you're nobody, so that you don't attract these kind of circumstances anymore. Any trauma. Absolutely any. I've dealt with suicides. I've dealt with people who've been raped, male and female. I've dealt with depressions. I've dealt with people in the corporate world that can't go on, that always are stuck, or they're fighting for position in the corporate world. It doesn't matter. Even people who think they have been abducted by aliens, and I don't mind if it's true or not. I'm not saying it's true, but the thing is, I take the metaphor of it, and once you take the metaphor of it, even there you find the answer, because it's not me to decide was the person really abducted, does this really exist or not. It doesn't matter in my system, because if everything around us is a perceived illusion, or called the matrix, then that's what the person has created. And in that creation, in that metaphor, is the answer for the person itself. Because the ancients always used to say, there's nothing outside of you but you. So this is what quantum physics says today. They say the observer and the observed are one. So it's the same thing. Yeah. So we can see quite clearly that it is very, very important to understand. That's why Socrates always says, know thyself. He didn't say that for nothing. He says, well, check out what you have in your conscious and unconscious mind, because that's what creates your reality. And we all, as we came onto this planet, we didn't know how to play this game of life, as I call it. We didn't know. Nobody told us. I mean, when I grew up, you know, religion didn't tell me, parents didn't tell me. And it's not because I'm cross with them. They didn't know. Psychologists can't tell you. Churches can't tell you. So through living life and having my own traumas in life, I started learning about it, and I started finding out how to apply that and how to get to it. And I can tell you conclusively, I mean, it answers a hell of a lot of questions to anybody. And the same thing with cancer. People who've got cancer or sick. I mean, I had a lady who was in hospital, and I got called out to her because she had only 6 months to live. And so I did a reading for her, and I said, do you want the good news or the bad news? So she said to me, I want the bad news. I said to her, you don't want to get healed. So she flew at me, and because she had lots of money, and she said, no, you're talking absolute rubbish, because I've been to Brazil to that famous healer, and I've been to Nigeria to that healer, and I've done oxygen therapy, and I've done this, and now I'm on chemotherapy, and I've done everything. And I definitely want to get healed. So I said, I hear you, but let's go back to what you told me at the beginning when we had the first alignment session, when you said to me, you were a family and you were 3 kids, and the daughter, your sister was the favorite of your mother, and your brother was the favorite of your dad. And she said, yes. And I said, and you were the third wheel out, right? And nobody really cared about you. On top of it, your brother became an advocate. Your sister is very wealthy, married to a beautiful guy, and you're still battling. And she said, what has it got to do with it? And I said, it's got everything to do with it, because since you're in hospital, aren't they all coming to you and giving you flowers and how are you, my darling? And you know what your subconscious mind tells you? Don't you dare to get better, because they're all going to piss on your battery again. I said, when are you going to stop actually putting yourself down? Because that's what you've been doing for lifetimes. Not only this life, I believe that there's more than one life. So, and here she suddenly stopped and she was quiet. And I said, that's it. I said, if you just break that right now and you change that forever and forget about getting love and appreciation and acknowledgement in the outside world, because remember, if it's not inside of you, you can't get it without. And we all are actually caught in that. You know, we're all searching for the love and acknowledgement and appreciation in the outside world. It's not there. It will never be there. It's only there if it's first inside of you. Well, she's still living today. She made a change in her life. So, and that's what I mean. I had another guy who had leukemia. He was actually working for me at that time. And he was 26 and he was given 1.5 years to live. And he had to have a bone marrow transplant. And he was very scared about it. And when he came back, I said to him, look, I can do a reading for you. Let me just check out what, maybe we can find something. So in the reading, it came out that when he was young, he actually didn't want to live anymore. And I said, are you aware of that? And he said, yes, I'm aware of that. So I said, okay. I said, I don't care what God you believe in. What I want you to do is in the morning when you get up, I want you to open your arms up, go into your garden and pray to God and say, I'm sorry that I actually pressed the button to switch off, because God might have said, well, your wish is my command. It's my command, whatever you want to do. So if you want to go, then that's it. And in your mind, just go to the main switchboard. Every house got a main switchboard where all your electrical circuit breakers are. And I said, in your mind, just put the main circuit breaker up. And he did that. And he went back for a checkup after 6 weeks. And when he went back, he was from about 80% having leukemia down to 21%, 25%. He was over the moon. The parents phoned me. It was amazing. But he didn't do his work, and so it went further, and he then, after 4 or 6 months, it came back. And he didn't do his work and his follow-up sessions and his transformation session and all that, because he thought that was it. It was done. So I worked with him, and I worked with him in hospital and all that. And today, he's the longest survivor here in South Africa, because, you know, leukemia and a bone marrow transplant, 1 in 10 make it. And he had terrible side effects and all that, but he's still alive today, and it's doctors can't believe it, because he did the changes. So yeah, so anybody can come and do it. It doesn't matter. I'll give you the knowledge how to get out of your own jungle, but you got to do the walking. Yeah. So I am the person who analyzes you. I'm telling you that's the problem. That's why it happened. That's what you need to change. Now you must go on. Now you can do it. Now I'm giving you the tools to empower yourself. And by empowering yourself, you have the tools to face anything in life, and you move on and move on and move on until you're basically one with yourself, which is then a bliss state where you're totally at peace with yourself. You can start loving yourself. That means that you're happy with yourself, and life arranges itself around you towards that automatically. Basically, what they do is they phone me up. I quickly gave them an explanation of what I can do. Then they will do a payment on the internet, and I will then do a reading or a half or a full in-depth analysis, which takes normally about 3 to 5 hours. And then I will send them an email and say, I'm ready. They can then book for a Skype or Zoom conference, and we will go through that reading together, and I will start explaining that reading. And anything I say and they don't like or they disagree with, they must stop me on that, because we need to make a note. Because it can happen at times that you disagree with it, but then when we do the transformation sessions and we go deeper into the self, we can then suddenly see it from a different angle, and then we tick it off again to see if it was correct or if it is not correct. But that's how normally it works. So the in-depth analysis is an overview of who you are. Then the alignment session is nothing else by saying, okay, let's align you. That's where you should be. That's where you were. Okay. And now you can do transformation sessions, which are definitely important, which they can do anytime, but I suggest always to do it within a 21-day period for changes. And in that 21-day of changes, we can then do, depending, 4 or 6 transformation sessions where they can bring up anything, any problem. You know, when it was Christmas, my father and I had a big fight and we never talked for years after that. Or, you know, something happened when I was 36, or I got divorced when I was, 25, and then I remarried, and any questions. And I will show them exactly how they've attracted it, how they can change it, and then we transform it, first logically in them to have a peace of mind here, and then secondly in the emotional sense in their heart. And once that is done, they feel totally empowered, and a change, of course, starts occurring. I had one guy also with me who was a repairs manager for a huge electronic company, and he came to me for a problem that one of his ladies that was working there was trying to get his position and tried anything by just telling lies, and they couldn't see each other's faces and they couldn't talk, and he was very concerned about that because he hated to go to work because he had to face all the time, but they never looked at each other. They hated each other's guts because she constantly tried to take his position away. So we did a transformation on that, and of course he was quite amazed to see the mirrors of how he had created that. And just to tell you how the change happened, he then said, well, what's going to happen now? I truly could have let go of this now, that actually your enemy is your greatest teacher, as the Chinese said long time ago. Then something will occur because your heart has sent out the signal to her heart. And at some point in time in the morning, she might wake up and she doesn't know why she thinks about you. That's how it works. because this again is a receptor side, so it pulls it up. The signal goes up into the neural network, and you start thinking about your enemy, and you don't know why. But then you start thinking, you think a bit of guilt, and you think, well, maybe I was a bit too harsh with this guy, I'm really a bitch, maybe I should stop that. And he came to me about 3 weeks later, and I said to him, what happened? He says, well, I got to tell you the good news. I said, tell me. He said, I was sitting in my office, and suddenly there was a knock on the door, and she comes in with a cup of coffee. I nearly fell off my chair. So I said, well, you see, so your signal has actually touched her and changed her. And did you return it with lots of love? And he says, yes, that's what I did. And today, well, they're talking, and she's not after his ass anymore to change, to get his position in the corporate world. And so there's peace. So the amazing thing is, and there is a program in the States, which I once saw, that actually we're all interlinked through the field. It's quite interesting. Through the matrix, basically. Through the field, we're interlinked. And we can touch each other. I mean, it's the same thing if a son is in Canada and the mother stays in Ireland, and suddenly the mother thinks of the son, there's something wrong, and she phones him. Well, the signal was sent. And we know those... the same thing that happened when they took a spit of a person in London and flew that whole spit all the way to California. And when the person changed his emotions, the chemistry in that spit also changed in California. So these scientific experiments have been done today. So we know for sure that we're all interlinked. And so the system, when you do your transformation sessions, and that's why they're called transformation sessions, because you transform your enemy, because the enemy is inside of you. The ancients used to say it has to be inside of you first before it can occur in your life. Yeah. So we are definitely always the creator of our reality. And it says it in the Bible, we're born in the image of the Creator. So we are creators. There's no doubt about it. That's what we are. And so the more we start understanding that, and the more we see why things happen, then we start getting empowered, truly getting empowered, of saying, hey, I no longer have to play the victim. I no longer have to say, oh, it's the fault of this one or the government or whatever it is. No, I need to take responsibility. It is my life, and I need to work in it. And basically, that's why we get born. Nothing else. That's my conclusion. Yeah. Generally, from about 10, 12 years upwards. You see, the thing is, it needs a bit of logical understanding, which an adult has more, especially if you do the logical thing. People also ask, how long are the sessions? So the in-depth analysis, because it's now on the internet, they don't have to worry about it. I do my 3 to 5 hours in-depth study, but the transformation sessions are normally 1 hour. They can be sometimes 1 hour, 15 minutes, and that's the same price. It's calculated an hour. It's only when it goes over 115 and goes towards 2 hours, then I have to charge an extra money for it. But generally, it's an hour 15 per transformation session. And I normally tell people anyway, next time when you phone me again, just bring me a problem that you want to know in life. That's why I always say to people, make sure that all your problems are answered in life. And this is what you can do with me. I can answer every problem of your life. You tell me this happened or that happened, and why did it happen, and how can I change it? It doesn't matter what. Make sure that all the major problems in your life, you put them on a piece of paper and we work through them. And we will work through them, and you will have answers. And that gives such a peace in your mind and a peace in your heart. It's quite unbelievable. Because it's over. You see, your mind doesn't have to rotate and rotate and rotate and trying to find an answer. It is answered, it is finished. And the nice thing about it, it's not me telling you this how it is and that's what you must believe. You give yourself the own answers. That's the beauty. Yeah. And then it matches with the in-depth analysis. Just a recent photo, just the face, exactly like a passport photo. And the name. And that's it, and their email address, and we can rock and roll. If you're experiencing any problems, relationships, business relationships, love relationships, any kind of diseases that you have, because in a disease we say already we are diseased. It means there is already an emotional attachment to it. every disease has got an emotional attachment to it. Please feel free to contact me or an email or on cell phone, and we can put up a session and work it through. Any questions you might have as well about your life that doesn't make sense can be answered as well. So feel free to contact me on those numbers below.